I want to welcome you to this week's episode of the CVC Home Service Success Network. This is sponsored each and every week by CVC Success Group. And the reason we do this is to share processes, methods, concepts with the managers of home service industries across America. We're getting a lot of views every week. We topped 30,000 last week on this. So we're getting the message out there to people. And we'd really appreciate you taking your time with us. Hopefully you're learning some things from this and it's creating value for you. That's our whole purpose in doing this every Friday. So sometimes it's just myself, Cheryl, and Josh, and sometimes we have a guest on here. Well, today we're honored to have a guest who is joining us. I met this gentleman several months ago at the Savor Summit in Key Largo, Florida. I had been invited to speak there, and I actually spoke before he did, but then he came on after that and he started talking about a subject matter that I think is vastly important, and that is the branding of the company. His name is Eric Ebbert. He is the vice president of marketing for Saver Systems. Saver Systems, people who make chimney saver. They have the prior fire unit. They have a lot of good products out there for the industry. They have crown products. They have waterproofing and a lot of different products that are widely used and accepted by the chimney service industry that we work primarily with. So, Eric, I want to welcome you here today. Let's start out. You hadn't been in the chimney industry that long. So tell us a little bit about your background before you got into working with Saber Systems.
Yeah, actually, I came into the chimney industry back in August, so it's just been a few months. And I'll start out first, Jerry, by it wasn't fair for the people who put that schedule together at the summit to have me follow you. You are a tough act to follow, my friend. But no, I've been, I've marketing and advertising is all I know. I came out of University of Kentucky and with an
Oh,
advertising degree and started with traditional advertising agencies, like Mad Men style type of thing. And moved into the financial world, and that's where I spent the majority of my career, about 20 years or so, working for community banks and credit unions. But and now here I am. I find myself in the coatings industry, and it's a fun challenge. It's a fun challenge. It's a great industry, great people. But through all of that, whether it's advertising agencies where I'm working with, um, water parks and entertainment and retail goods and business to business, whether it's banking, credit unions, and community banks, whether it's, heat shield and prior fire, the the process of creating a brand is always the same. And so, and I'm a brand guy. That's my passion. That's what it's always been my passion. And I think, if you could build a solid brand for your company, you're going to see exponential growth.
got you covered. So let me ask you this. Before you came to work for Saber Systems, did you even know that there was such a thing as chimney sweeps, or was this something foreign to you?
No, man, I'll tell you. To me, and I know this is cliche as heck, but to me, chimney sweeps were, Mary Poppins. I mean, I knew, and anyway, and that's one. I tell you, that's one of the nice things about coming in with a fresh set of eyes, because I can actually better fit into the people who are listening, their customers' role, right? And that's the biggest part of marketing. You need to be able to be a chameleon. You need to be able to think not as an industry expert, but to think like a customer. And it's easy for me to be ignorant when I came in ignorant. But to me, a chimney sweep, what they cleaned a chimney. I had no idea about the importance of relining the inside and making sure that I didn't even know that bricks could soak up water. I knew nothing about the crowns or fireboxes, and it's just really been a an educational experience for sure. But the bottom line is, the people listening, your customers are the same. They think of, yes, I know I need to clean my chimney out. I know that the soot, could be a fire hazard, that but they don't think about all the other parts of it. And really, I think that's, again, as a marketer, it's nice to be working for a company that has a story to tell, right? And, Saver Systems products have a story to tell. They've got a legacy. They've got, um, we do have differentiation. We do have superior products. And, that's a dream for any marketer. So I've got no problem coming into a new industry, talking about products that really do make a difference.
Yeah, and I got to agree with you. I think many times we are so close to our own businesses that we can't think like our customer any longer. And I often see this in the marketing that people do on their websites, on their social media. It's often they are marketing, in my opinion, to their competitors. They're really not speaking a language that the consumer, the customer, really understands. And that's a hard thing to do. So bringing in a fresh outlook from outside, okay, I have no idea what you guys do. I have no idea what the product is. I had no idea that bricks could soak up water like you're telling me it could do it. So I think it helps you to put together a story that's more believable to the consumer because you're looking at it from the uneducated eyes of the consumer. So let's start with this question. We're talking about branding. And as we talk about a company's brand, what are we talking about here? What is the brand of the company, Eric?
Well, I'll tell you, most of the listeners are going to think they're going to jump right to the logo and a tagline, right? You think about Nike, you think about the swoosh, but realistically, when you think about Nike, you're thinking about the products. You think Just Do It, but Just Do It really comes down to allowing the everyday person to be able to achieve, um, physically, more through their products. Just Do It really isn't about, when they started talking about Just Do It, it was, moving from their products being focused on professional athletes and trying to make the common everyday person feel like an athlete, right? That's what Just Do It is about. So, moving to what we do in our industry, your brand is really your personality. It's not just your logo. It's not the swoosh. It's the way you make your customers feel. With Nike, it was aspirational. With Nike, it was, anybody can be an athlete. With what we do, it comes down to, and we need to, it could come down to safety. It could come down to reassurance. It could come down to beautifying a home. But really what we sell on the chimney sweep side is trust, and yeah, I guess it is. It really is reassurance, because if you think about it, um, you know, how illogical is it to want to start a fire inside your house, right? And if you're going to do it, you better be darn sure it's going to be safe. And that's what we do, and that's what we offer. And so your brand is your company personality, and you want to make sure that that personality aligns with what your target customers want. And that's where we get back to, Nike knew that they could only sell so much to professional athletes, but they could sell a ton to people who want to feel like professional athletes. Well, we want to talk to homeowners, particular set of homeowners who have a particular set of needs for, not everybody has a fireplace or even wants to burn in the house. So that we do have a niche in our target audience, and we want to make sure that whatever brand we focus on for ourselves aligns with that audience. And that may be different from region to region. Somebody in the Northeast, a homeowner, may have a particular need to have a more efficient energy source, heating source, right? Where somebody in Arizona, for example, it may be completely aesthetic or mood setting, but they sure as heck don't need it just for the heat. So, there are going to be different needs from community to community, from region to region. And I think that it's important for the listeners to understand who their audience is. And like you said, go back to getting in that mindset of our target audience, and not looking at it as just stepping away from ourselves as a professional just for a minute to take a look at it from somebody who really their only exposure to to chimney sweeps is Dick Van Dyke on Mary Poppins.
Yeah. One of the things I interviewed a branding expert several years ago that was a John Maxwell coach and a friend of mine in the real estate industry. And he had a real simple explanation for brand. He said, your brand is what people say about you when you're not around. What they say about you when you're not around, that's your brand.
That is a great definition. And we all have a brand, whether you're a company or you're an individual. And that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So Cheryl, I'm gonna pass it along to you. What questions would you have for Eric in the area of branding?
Okay, we all know people are creatures of nature. So I'm sure that you get a lot of feedback, riffraff, whatever's coming on when you start trying to change the personality as opposed to the product. Tell us how that works out and how you convince them that it's not all about the product.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Well, first, before I get into product, I want to get back to that changing your personality statement, because that's pretty powerful. I think, like I said, individually, we all have a brand, right? I've been talking now for about 10 minutes, and the folks who didn't know me before this podcast started are starting to have an opinion on whether it's good or bad. Our companies are the same way. And the choice we have as business owners is to determine whether we're going to proactively affect that or just give it up to the customers and let them decide what that brand is, which is awfully dangerous. I'm not saying that we should change our personality. I think that's difficult for any of us to do. And I want to keep coming back to brand as your company personality, because I think it's easy for us to think in our own, based on ego, our own personal terms of, I can't change who I am. I don't want to change who I am. But what your brand does is, I'm not asking you to change your company. I'm asking you to change your focus, right? So the best brands, like I said, align with your customers' needs. I'm not saying that you need to change your personality to those customers' needs. I'm saying that you probably already meet those needs, but that's the part that we need to focus on. If you look at an 80-20 rule, right, 20% of your effort is going to generate 80% of your benefit. So we want to focus on what is it that customers want, what is it that I do well, and that's where we're going to focus our message. So I'm not asking anybody to change who you are. I would never do that.
I was talking more about the personality of the company.
Oh, yeah.
He has a personality.
Absolutely. And what we want to do is we want to emphasize the parts of our personality. You emphasize the good and you de-emphasize the bad, right? We want to emphasize the parts of our personality that align with what our customers want. When you talk about product, wow. This is going to sound awfully funny coming from the vice president of marketing for a company that sells all these individual brands for chimney sweeps. But, if I'm talking to a chimney sweep, realistically, we want to sell a solution. You as a sweep want to sell a solution. We as a manufacturer have worked hard to make sure that we're providing those solutions that are going to help your company have better revenue opportunity. The more products we can offer for you to be more than somebody who shows up with a broom and cleans out the inside of a chimney, the more revenue opportunity you have. And so we're providing solutions in buckets, right? You need to sell those solutions to the customer. And I personally don't care if you're promoting heat shield, if you're promoting prior fire, if you're promoting chimney saver. What's going to help your company out the most is to present the solution that those individual products are going to provide. And we've got enough of an educational hurdle with these customers. I mean, they don't even know what a crown is, let alone the fact that we're going to provide a tool, a product that's going to help to get rid of the cracks in your crown. It's going to help prevent water damage. There's enough of an educational process for the sweeps out there to have to sell the need for a product, let alone now, I have no problem with this saying, yes, you need this crown issue, you need this crown solution. And oh yeah, by the way, we've got the best in the market. It's called Heat Shield. But again, I think that there's enough of a learning curve for the customers that I don't think it's necessary. And I know as a marketing VP, I'm not out in the world selling my brands to consumers. So focusing on Heat Shield or Prior Fire or Chimney Saver isn't necessarily going to gain you anything on the consumer side other than you having the confidence in our product to say, yes, you have this problem. Yes, I do provide this solution. And where there are multiple solutions in this category, I use the best one available, right? And if it just you happen to use the Chimney Saver name or the Heat Shield name or what have you, then fine. But again, that's not going to mean so much to the people you're talking to. Does that answer the question?
As you were talking, Eric, I was thinking, here's a good tagline. Your solution is in our bucket.
It might be. It might be. Absolutely. Because, think about your truck, man, and think about how many different buckets you're carrying around with you from day to day.
Yeah. That's it. So, Josh, what about you? What kind of question you got for Eric today on the subject matter of branding?
Well, of course, when I think branding, I'm thinking colors, uniforms, things like that. But you're talking about it's more about company culture. Is that what that's what you're really after, right?
It all goes together. Yes. And your brand needs to be consistent. I like to bring up Disney when I talk about branding because really Disney does branding, in my opinion, better than anybody else in the world. I mean, how else could you pay these exorbitant amount of, for a ticket for a day and have the place be, packed every single day of the year, 365 days a year. But with Disney, you're never an employee, you're a cast member. Matter of fact, when I was back in my advertising agency days, I got to interview with Disney. And I didn't go to HR, I went to casting. So that speaks to culture. But they're also who they are because they're consistent. 365 days a year, every single day, every single employee is going to be in character and on point. And so that does, yes, a consistency in color is important. A consistency in uniform is important. The way you deliver, that's all how you deliver the brand. But culture is also there. And, making sure, think about, again, if you think about Disney, yes, there are Disney horror stories, they're in a very hot state there. You can have a bad time in the happiest place on earth, but the odds are you're not. Odds are you're not going to see any cigarette butts. You're not going to see any dead flowers. You're not going to, you literally transport yourself like no place else on earth into a completely different universe while you're there. And it's there. It's like that because they're consistent and because every single team member understands their role and is delivering on it. And that's brand. But it all fits together. Colors, uniforms, culture, being
I saw where a guy made a model out of Bluey at the Disney park out of fallen sticks. He was just picking up the sticks, and then the cast member was making characters out of the sticks. I was like, damn, that's really crazy.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that they do, Disney is almost cult-like in their consistency, right? And the type of people that they hire from the minute they hire you to when you're in the park. But they do allow the individual characters, staff, the cast members to have their own personality. So there was, I know that I hear a story of a maintenance worker, and what he would do is he would carry an autograph book around with him, and the little girls will dress up like the princesses, and he would ask for their autographs, treating them like they're, it was his, it was his own idea to do so. There's also a story I've heard about at one of the resort hotels, one of the women who takes care of the rooms, she learned how to do origami with towels, and she could turn a towel into Eeyore or Disney characters, and she just did it. And then the word got out that she was doing it, and the managers actually had her start training other people. So there is room for your own personal personality, but as long as it's fitting in with the four corners, the box of what that brand is. And that brand for Disney is creating magic. And when you're having a little girl feel like Cinderella because you're asking for her autograph, when you're coming into a room and you're seeing the towels that look like a Disney, that's all magic. And so it fits what they do. And I think we could do the same type of thing, because realistically, when your guys get on the truck and head out to a customer, whether it's to do an inspection, to present a proposal, or to actually do the work, you're putting your brand into that truck and sending it on its way. So you need to make sure that the folks you're hiring, the training that you provide is more than just technical training, but that it's consistent. And this is how, yes, we have to be technical. We're artisans, but we need to also be able to handle our customers.
Yeah,
and have consistency there.
And I know Jerry's always biggest is the sweep is the presentation for the big sale at the end.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's little things like when you go to present your findings, did you clean your hands? Are you sitting at this woman's kitchen table with dirty hands, trying to, present solutions and things like that? Mm-hmm. Little things are you covered head to toe in soot and you smell? Okay. Do you have a clean shirt just for when you're done working that you can go in and talk to the homeowner? Do you change that up? Because it's getting to be summer, and I know, I swept many a chimney in the summer, and man, when you get off that roof, you're just dripping in sweat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Eric, what I'm hearing you say is that brand is more than just our logos. Brand is more than just a wrap on our van. There's a psychological side to branding, is what I'm hearing you saying. And your brand is the way you carry yourself, the way your phone is answered, the way your technicians show up on time, the way they explain the products. So let me ask you this. One of the hot topics in home services right now is a process called rebranding. We had a guest on there a while back, Dan Antonelli's wrote a book on this. He has a company called Kick Charge, and that's what they do is they actually design new brands for people. So here's the question. When should a company look at a massive rebranding, which means new looks to the truck, new logos, new uniforms? It's an expensive proposition.
Absolutely, it is.
It is. It could be $100,000 or more. I mean, a vehicle wrap isn't cheap. So when should a company look at changing their physical brand that appears to the consumer?
Okay. I love that question. For 14 years, I was a consultant, marketing consultant for community banks and credit unions. And I had an answer to that exact same thing, because I would come in and talk to a potential client about branding, and they would want to change their name. They'd want to change their colors and their logo. And the rule of thumb that I had for that was, does your brand have a negative connotation in the marketplace? Right? Does it give somebody a bad perception as it is? Does your brand differentiate? So if a brand needs to set you apart from everybody else selling that same service in your area. And is your brand hurting your sales in any way, shape, or form. So if you've got a negative connotation, if it's hurting your sales in any way, shape, or form, or if it doesn't differentiate you, if you could literally take your logo out of your communication, put your competitor's logo in there, and it's the same darn message, then yeah, then you need to start thinking about possibly doing a rebrand. But outside of that, there's equity in a brand, just like there's equity in an investment or in a home. And you want to be careful to just willy-nilly just doing a complete rebrand is a risky proposition, where, like I said earlier to Cheryl, that if you simply refocus, you can rebrand without making any huge drastic changes. I would hate for, especially a small business owner who has limited resources, I would hate for them to spend those resources and end up ruining the equity that you or possibly your parents, that if this is a legacy type of a business, that your business has spent years generating.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's like the company you work for, Sabre Systems. I think it would be very foolish for Sabre Systems to say, hey, it's time for us to rebrand. We're not going to be Sabre Systems any longer. To me, that would be pretty idiotic.
But you know what, Jerry? We are actually rebranding to a certain extent as we speak.
Right. And that's what I was going to go into, which is the rebranding that you are doing is, how can we be more of a force of assistance to our customers? How can we help our customers succeed? Do you want to go into some detail on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are blessed to have a very positive brand image in the marketplace with the chimney sweeps. We have always been known for quality products. We've always been known for a top-notch, coming out and helping train your team to use our products. We've always been known for service. But from our very beginning, our brand was really built on one individual, our founder, who rightfully so was an innovator and helped us to get the tools that we have right now. But several years ago, he sold the company to the employees, and we're now an ESOP, an employee-owned company. And we want to be more than just an individual. And from a branding perspective, we've always been known to provide products and services that help you to grow your business, like I said earlier, by providing you with revenue opportunities. So you're more than just sweeping, you're fixing the crown, you're fixing the inside, you're providing a retrofit firebox, you're sealing the bricks on the outside. But what we want to do is help you grow your business in other ways as well. And there is power to an ESOP. We want to show that. And so what we're doing is starting to tweak our message to, we are more than just quality products, but we are also a team of individuals who have a certain expertise. It's one of the reasons, Jerry, that I'm doing this podcast with you today, to help these small business owners grow their business through marketing. I'm doing articles in Sweeping Magazine. But just last week, the very first tactical element of this rebrand, but tweak in the way we're approaching things, is we just launched a blog that is going to help small business owners, knowing that not all small business owners have MBAs, knowing that most of the small business owners we deal with know their craft with the chimneys and the fireplaces, but they may not be classically trained in how to run a business. So I've got a marketing series. Philip, our CEO, has a leadership series, and that's his strength. He's a leader. He was a leadership coach. We're going to be bringing in our finance folks to help give you some tips on how to run the finances of your small business. Our operations folks, our sales. We're going to bring in the power of the ESOP to provide you with more than just good training and good products, but with tips on how to run your business as well.
Yeah. I saw one of your videos recently where it had a bunch of your people on there, and they each said, I am Sabre Systems. I am Sabre Systems. So
that is our brand.
Yeah. So Cheryl, you got any additional questions for Eric?
No, it's been very informative. And I know a lot of people like we've talked about all morning, look at branding in a whole different thing. It's the pretty part. So I hope this brings in the interior part of it. So as they're changing what I call the pretty part or the seeable part, the backside is keeping up with it, taking care of their customers.
Yep. Josh, what about you? You got any additional questions?
No, I don't have any questions, but I was just kind of thinking more on the Disney side. It's like, everything should be, you're talking about consistent marketing message. A lot of people think even your font, I always say that the font that you choose for your company, says a lot too. That all your writings, your websites, and all that becomes, single-minded there. And there's thousands of fonts to choose from in this day and age, and becomes quite overwhelming.
Yes, it is. So I'm going to read you a couple things here that I had down for this, Eric. Tell me as I get through with this if you agree with this. The first thing you've got to do is define your brand identity. This is your foundation. What is your mission and your values? What do you stand for? Are you about quality, affordability, speed, eco-friendliness, etc.? Your target audience. Who are your ideal customers? Is it homeowners, landlords, property managers, high-income neighborhoods? Your brand personality. Are you professional and polished? Are you friendly and approachable, rugged and dependable? You got to develop a memorable visual identity. You're looking at your logo, clean, simple, relevant to your service. What are you doing? And just like Josh said, the colors and the font consistent across all your materials. Use colors that convey trust, which are blues and greens, or urgency, which are red and oranges, depending on your niche. Your tagline. What is the tagline of what you do? What identifies you? Is that good thoughts to be having when you do this, Eric?
And this is why I didn't like having to follow you as a presenter. Jerry, you nailed it. No, those are absolutely all things. Like I said, you want to make sure that you're differentiating. You want to make sure that one of the things that helps is to build a persona, and maybe we could talk about this in a future podcast. But you want to create an individual that represents your target audience and build everything to them. So whether it's the tone of voice that you have in your social media, whether it's if you are or are not going to participate in the community, would it be important to this particular individual? If you can get your communication one-to-one as much as possible and build up like a stereotypical customer using your customer service folks and your sales folks feedback that you get from your customer facing team, find the people that you most want to sell to, whether it's because they're a large volume or whether because they're a higher profit center or what have you, whatever's important to your business. But then create an individual, a persona that you write everything to. And then whether it's your font, your color, your tone of voice, the service processes you put in place, it's easier to, is that going to speak to this individual who I created? And that makes it easier for you to do your brand.
That's it. Well, brother, I want to thank you for being on today with us. I think it's been some really good information about building your brand. What is your brand? How you got to look at the psychological side of this. And your brand is more than just your logo. It's more than just your truck wrap. Your brand is how you carry yourself, how you take care of customers. Does your brand say you're an empathetic company that listens to people? You've got to do all these things. And it's all down to sales. That's how you build your sales, by building the trust with the customer, the relationships, and all the things. That's what's going to bring you the end results. So anyway, appreciate you being here today, Eric. And again, if you joined us, I hope this has been a time of value to you. We present this most weeks. Next week, we will not be doing a broadcast. We'll be at the HPBA show in New Orleans next week. But again, watch for what Sabre Systems is offering. They're going to be putting together courses, it sounds like, to help people in financing, leadership, marketing, all these different things. And that's the brand of the company that they're going to present to you. So take a look at it. And I'm sure that, Eric, if anybody's got questions, they can reach out to you there at Sabre Systems, right?
Absolutely. I hope they do.
Okay, brother. Well, I appreciate it. Appreciate you folks joining us today, and we'll see you on the next episode of the CVC Home Service Success Network. It's an